It's probably in the evening right now. You're sitting in front of your laptop, you're looking at the screen, and maybe you're beginning to get curious. What is this all about? What am I going to say next? You may have been told that we are going to learn something called programming or coding. But what is programming exactly? And why should you learn that? The real reason why you're here, we sneakily tricked you. The real reason you're here is to use programming or coding as an excuse to learn how to think, how to solve real world problems, how to communicate your idea in a way that everybody else listens, and how to collaborate, in other words, work with others and build creative things in the world, make your own things in the world. All through schools, we learn how to give answers to other people's questions. But here, you're going to learn how to ask your own questions and change the world around you. So let's begin. And I always like to begin with a question. And the question here is, what is this programming thing? Aren't you curious? I've always been curious. What is a program? Have you heard of the word algorithm? Algorithm? Some people say, like my second standard teacher. The first time I heard that word, algorithm, was in my second standard. And the first time she introduced this word to me, she said that an algorithm is basically a set of steps that you have to follow to get something out of it. I was like, okay, why is this part of computers? You follow a set of steps in the real world, don't you? Like I was like, I make Maggi, right? I make Maggi, behind it I see a set of steps, right? Take a thing, a vessel, put water in it, put Maggi in it, put the stove, wait for 2 minutes, a set of steps that gives me a result, right? Maggi. And I was curious, and I remember thinking about this, like why is this part of computer programming, this word algorithm, if it's just a set of steps? Think about that question. Does algorithm have anything to do with computer science? What is this word program then? Does that have anything to do with computer science? What is this word coding then? What's the difference between coding and programming? You know, all these words you probably see are being thrown around, right? Now the reality is, the word I learned later, that the word algorithm has existed for a very long time. It just means a recipe, right? A recipe like making Maggi or making coffee. Then you might ask, okay, if it's just a recipe, why can't we just call it that, right? Why are we calling it an algorithm? An algorithm is a special kind of recipe. It's a math recipe. So if you use, like for example, do you know how to divide like some big number, like 35,422 divided by 198? You have some method for it, right? It's called long division method. That's a recipe basically. You put these two ingredients into it, big number, small number, as the ingredients into that, and then you cook, you'll get the quotient and the remainder as your dish. So that's an algorithm you're using. It's a recipe, but it's a math recipe. So an algorithm is just a fancy word for a math recipe. Does algorithm have anything to do with computers? The word algorithm has existed for hundreds of years before computers, because math recipes, which is pretty much what algorithms are, have existed all the way before computers. Computers are just a very good place, very fast thing to actually do those math recipes, right? That's all. The math recipes themselves have nothing to do with computers. But between algorithms and computers is where the word programming comes. If you're able to take a math recipe and write it in a language that the computer understands, right? That thing that you wrote that the computer can understand is called a program. So you can take a math recipe and write it in English, except the computer has no idea what you're talking about. So it can't do the math recipe for you and give you the answer, right? But if you write it in a program, then you've learned how to communicate with a machine, and it suddenly gets you, and then it tells you the answer super quickly. So that's a program. You see the difference? Algorithm existed for hundreds of years, has nothing to do with computers, right? Just a math recipe to find answers. The thing about algorithms is that now when you convert them into a program, you can now start getting computers to do them for you.